All right, so welcome, Sally and Yad, to the Zoom room. Thanks for that little share, Yad, about gratitude. And then you were saying, well, question, maybe just sort of reframe your question around being and doing.
It's about being in a state of bliss and gratitude and just appreciating being in the moment, and then knowing that I've got things to do, and then whilst I'm in that state of bliss, I don't really do anything because it doesn't
Mm,
occur to me to do
mm,
anything. And
mm,
then obviously there are things in the level of form that I have to get done, practical things like cooking
mm,
dinner or
mm,
you know,
mm.
doing the laundry.
Yeah, well, it's quite funny, synchronistic, because just last night I was listening to Eckhart. YouTube just runs videos, so it's like, okay, well, Eckhart comes on and he's speaking about being and doing, and some people are more kind of being oriented, and some people are more doing oriented. But even if you're more doing oriented, you can still have access to being. You don't have to disconnect from being to do. So this is being, and then the extension of being in the world is called flow. And if you can take your being into whatever it is you're doing, then that's called a state of flow, which can actually be quite enjoyable. Um, Pure being doesn't require anything. I need do nothing. Yeshua says, I need do nothing. If you're really immersed in that state, it's not a state that motivates action because there's nothing to do. You're just like, I'm actually perfectly happy as I am right now in this moment. I don't need to do anything. I can just sit and I can be it. And so at the extreme of that, you get yogis and mystics who will sit for weeks in meditation, just blissing up. They're just like, there's nothing to do. I'm just going to sit in my beingness, and it's perfect as it is. And the doing doesn't really affect them very much. Um, so that's that we call that full enlightenment in this world, but often even they come back into some kind of doing role as well. Like take Ramana Maharshi as an example. So he was from the age of 16, he just kind of woke up. He was like, I've no interest in really doing anything in the world, pursuing any kind of normal career. So in India, the society kind of supports that. So he goes off to ashrams and temples and basically meditates for years. Just finds a place to park off. Doesn't really require food or shelter or anything like that. India's quite a hot country, and he's just blissing out. And but over time, what happens is some people get to know about him, and then he gets a bunch of followers, and then they build an ashram. And then it's like, oh, okay, then now there's an ashram, and there's people coming to visit, and he's like, no, I don't really want to do that. I just want to bliss out and be. But he accepts it, and then actually, apparently, he started doing. He refused to have his own room. He would sleep in the corridor because he was like, no, I don't want my own room. I don't think he really slept. I think he just meditated. So he would like just park and. I think they might have got him to meditate in a separate room at some point. That was about the most that they could do. And then people are arriving, and he's saying, well, they want guidance. Sri Ramana. He'd say, well, what am I going to teach them? I've got nothing to say. Because he's so rooted in being, and he says the silence is what does it. So just people sitting in silence in his presence is a profound spiritual experience for him, because he's so deeply rooted in his being that it takes them into that. But apparently he would, if there was a question, he would come out of his deep meditation, and he would, as a service, he would then teach, he would speak, and really his only message was who suffers. If you've got any kind of drama of suffering, who's the one who's suffering? Who do you think you are that's suffering? And that would point people into their ego to see the construct. And in the field of that extreme peace that he had, they would just kind of collapse and go, wow, I'm just feeling so peaceful and blissed out. So got lots of people coming because they just wanted to be in his presence. So that's kind of one extreme of it. There's the really deeply rooted in being, but he was still able to do. Then Eckhart Tolle is probably somewhere a little bit more towards the middle road, where he was, yeah, I mean, at a point he was blissed out for like 2 years. He just really didn't feel the need to do anything. Said he'd work for a bit, and then he'd have enough money, and then he lost it, and he just lost interest in his job or whatever. So he didn't do anything for whatever 2 3 weeks a month. He just kind of blissed out on park benches in London. And then he, oh, okay, well, I kind of need some money. I've got to tend to some of the basics of life. It gets sort of colder in London, as we know. So then he kind of gets some part-time job. And he said, I don't quite know how I survived for 2 years, but I sort of did. And then because people started questioning him, he started engaging, and then that sort of brought him a little bit back more into doing. He started to become more of a teacher. That's how it unfolded for him. And now, he still prefers being to doing, but he's actually quite active in the world. I mean, he's traveling the world. He's teaching retreats. He's speaking. So that's a form of doing. But he says, I still prefer being. I still prefer just sitting and doing nothing. That's my best thing to do. Just do nothing. And then he said, on the other extreme, you've got Oprah. So Oprah's quite, tapped in and connected to Oprah Winfrey. So he says she's amazing. She can just do and do and do, but she still has access to being. She's not losing herself in the doing. There's still an element of beingness that's flowing into the doing. So there's the different spectrums of it. I think we've all got like a different preference, a different kind of pull. So yours might be more towards beingness. Like, actually, I just like, blissing out. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as it doesn't, if it goes to an extreme in our society and you just did that, you would run into problems inevitably. Because who's going to attend to the details of your life? It would all just, if you didn't attend to it for weeks or months, it would kind of fall apart, wouldn't it? So what pulls you back into doing, it can seem like a challenge and unwanted, but if you accept it as, well, I can do in flow, and actually maybe that's part of my lesson as well. I can always be rooted in my beingness, even while I'm actively doing. That's the art of letting go, really, because you don't want to let go so completely that your life on the level of form just ceases and it all falls apart. And yet, you don't want to be anxious and uptight about it. So it's like, well, can I do my life? So my life, it's not really my life. Can I do this Yad character's life? But can I do it, from a place of deep gratitude and love and peace and joy, and let those flow through me, and let that do me? That's really the art of it. Which is why it's called A Course in Miracles and not A Course in Revelation or Course in Love, because he's saying this is actually quite a practical course. I'm going to teach you how to apply beingness into this world, and that application he calls the miracle. When you do that, the miracle, he says, is in the domain of perception. It's in the domain of time and space. It's not transcendent. Revelation and grace are transcendent. And you have moments of that, but actually it's A Course in Miracles, because he's saying, well, you're going to need to act in this world. You're going to need to be operational, functional. So I'll teach you how to do that, how to let go at the same time as doing. So it's a reinterpretation of whatever it is that you're doing, whatever's facing you. And that then becomes quite practical and useful. Okay, so I can just let go. I can reinterpret, I can reframe, I can perceive it differently. And now the Holy Spirit can inspire me to take an action if that's required, because I've reframed my perception. I've seen it differently. Now the action is going to be different. I'll say something different. I'll do something different. And so, this is how the beingness then flows into the doing. And you're in the middle. The Buddha called it the middle way. He said, don't go into the extremes of just being and doing nothing, and neither get lost in doing. It's like there's a middle way here between those two extremes where you can kind of flow with life. You flow, the being flows with you. Everything's actually quite happy and peaceful, but at the same time, you actually can operate in the world in quite an effective and miraculous fashion. And so that's really, I believe the Course in Miracles is that middle way as well. He's saying that's why it's called the Course in Miracles. And that's why the lessons are practical. It's like, okay, so come back, apply it to your life, do a little mind training exercises, shift your perception, and then act accordingly. And there's a big theme in the course of guidance, listening to guidance. What are you guided to do? So you are now being done through by the Spirit. It is guiding your thoughts and your words and your actions. And if you get that right, then you become extremely powerful in this world. You're miracle-minded. You can really bless yourself and others, be a great blessing on others, which is really what Yeshua is asking us to do. He's saying, look, the world needs your eyes and your ears and your hands and your feet to spread this message. So allow yourself to be used, and it will guide you, and that requires some kind of doing. So just be open to the doing when it needs to arise. And if you can and you can sit for an hour or two and just pure beingness, we call it meditation, but just enjoying that, well, that's okay too. Having that time is good. And then you get, okay, well, it's time to stop now. I've got to go make an evening meal, or I've got to go attend to something. Like, naturally there'll be something that tells you, and then don't resist that. Just say, okay, well, that's fine. I'm not in resistance. I'll just accept that. I'll flow with that, and I'll let my being that I've just connected with deeply flow into the doing. And then life becomes one flow, and you're not really distinguishing really between, oh, well, that's being and I prefer that, and that's doing and I don't really like that, because now you've got craving and aversion going on, which is another duality in your mind. It's just, okay, when I'm doing when I'm being, great, I can really enjoy that. And it's just the beingness is always there. It's flowing into my doing, and I don't develop an unhealthy craving. I mean, Ram Dass talked about it. This kind of addiction to the spiritual high is another problem. So if I really just want the beingness and I want to just bliss out, and I'm kind of addicted to that, then everything else is gonna seem to be less than. When I'm not in that experience, I'm gonna have a lot of resistance in my life, because it's going to be less than. I'm going to be expecting that I just want to be in bliss now, and I'm not fully in bliss because I'm having to deal with shopping or cooking or paying my bills. I don't want that. So now I create a resistance in me, which of course is more ego. Any pattern of resistance, anything that's not pure formless awareness of perfect love, is ego. So then there's a resistance that comes in, because you're seeking the spiritual high, but you're not getting it. So now there's an expectation of that state. So the ego is kind of coming. You gotta really watch it, because even at the higher levels, that's how it can get even a pretty advanced yogi or meditator. Like, oh no, you just want to bliss out and you don't want to do, and then the resistance develops, and maybe there's a little tendency in you for that pattern to develop. So if it happens, just say, all right, it's fine. It's time to move on. My being is not leaving me. My being is with me always. That state goes with me. God goes with me wherever I go, and I'm grateful for that. And now that flows into doing, and that can be joyful in itself. A joyful doing with enthusiasm. Entheos means God in you. Can be really a peak experience. You can really enjoy that experience. Going to the beach, doing something satisfying, giving a talk, connecting with people. It can be very, 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 very joyful, and that can be another way that being then comes into your life and fulfills you. So if you can get into the able to switch, just go, okay, I can just I'm being, and then I just switch into doing, and that's actually really, there's no switch. It's just like smooth transition. There's no resistance. That's where you want to try and be. And if there's any kind of resistance to that, just notice that and practice letting go of it. And say, okay, but it's fine. I don't have to resist this. I can release this. It's just another little bit of resistance. I can let it go, and I can carry my being with me into my doing, and it's all fine. and there's no resistance needed. I can really enjoy the experience of cooking or shopping or, paying bills even, because it's just flowing through me, and I'm using a part of my mind, but I'm using it functionally. You see that the difference between practical psychology and dysfunctional. So practical is like, okay, so you've got to cook a meal, right? So you're going to get the ingredients, you might get a recipe book, and you just kind of, or you're making it up, but there's some stuff you've got to organize. That's practical. Dysfunctional be, oh, I've got to cook a meal now. Oh, I really don't want to cook a meal. Oh, not again. Oh, I've got to do this again. What a drag. I'd rather be being. That's dysfunctional. You see, your mind's now using the situation to create unhappiness. So you got to be very wary of that, because the ego's going to try its tricks. But if there's no suffering, if it's just, okay, got to cook a meal, just do it. It's really, it's a great, that Mike's saying, just do it. You just do it, and you flow with it, and there's no resistance, and you get it done, and then you might have time to be some more, and then you do, and you work that out. That's what we've all got to do. No one can tell you exactly how that's going to work for you. You work that out, and that's your unfolding spiritual journey, your hero's journey. So quite a long answer to the question, but I hope that's given you a bit of perspective, maybe, and a few ideas.
Yes, I'm really grateful for the reminder. Actually, that's fabulous, because I do kind of flow into things sometimes. Like, I feel incredibly blessed that I've got a washing machine. I remember having a mangle when we were children, and now I've got hot running water. Even with that, I've got running water. All these little things, that I'm very grateful for when I'm conscious. When I'm not resisting it, I kind of flow into those things and think, yeah, this is easy. I remember thinking housework used to take me half an hour a day, whereas once upon a time it would have taken all day, wouldn't it, to do all the washing and the hoovering and whatever. It's like, how lucky are we? But anyway, thank you for reminding me. It's really good answer.
And I think gratitude is a key to that. If you can feel gratitude in the moment for whatever you're doing, then you're in flow, kind of by definition. So like, gratitude, I have a washing machine, that's great, that puts you into that state. So it's the counter to any kind of resistance or resentment. I don't really want to do this, which is why I love and gratitude are, a very powerful combination, which is the foundation of today's lesson. So yeah, we'll go into that. So a good lead in to our lesson. So Sally, anything to
what was coming to me was, I always say I want to be more, and I resist doing it. So I was just doing some work just then on, for me, I think I would like to be 50% being, 50% doing, and I'd lost sight of that until you brought up the subject. So thank you.
Yeah, we've all got our own frequency. Eckhart was like, well, you're probably going to be swaying more to one side than another. It's very seldom people are exactly balanced. You tend to have a pull, a preference. So maybe yours is more towards doing, and you've got to just kind of pull it the other way. I'm the same. I tend to do quite a bit, but the being is always there. When I'm doing, I haven't lost sight of that. So, and if you do start losing sight of it, then it's a warning sign. Okay, so it's time to take some time out and be more.
When I'm being, I forget the things that I'm supposed to be doing. So obviously the things like eating, maybe cleaning, that's kind of obvious. But other things that I've kind of, want to do, like business stuff and whatever, it's like all of that. Just to think about it. So I'm not sure that's helpful.
Well, you see, it's a different dimension, isn't it? And in truth, you're trying to transcend the entire construct of the ego. So all the stuff you have to do, business ideas, opportunities, ventures, which the ego can get quite excited about. Spirit's like, well, none of it really matters, actually, truth be told. The only thing that matters is that deep peace and bliss. So you kind of, bliss out. On that spiritual high, and if you manage it, that's okay. It's like, all right, so do it for an hour. It's called meditation. Give yourself the time. Maybe if you're got a bit more time, you could do it for a day, a holiday. You could have one day when you don't do anything. And then, you know, if you find something calls you, something pulls you back into doing because you have to do it, then just don't resist that. Go, okay, well, that's just part of life. You know, okay, it's time. I've you know, really enjoyed the being, and I just go into doing now. I've got to deal with that. In terms of, you know, any kind of, you know, proactive engagement and, you know, trying to make a business work. Yeah, I mean, truth be told, if you're in pure being, you really don't have much interest in doing that. So it's why
That's not helpful, though, is it? Really?
Well, I mean, it depends what you want. You know, if you're really going for full enlightenment, I mean, this is why the masters, the true masters, they don't really do much. Ramana didn't really do anything. He just sat and he was so rooted in being that it all just kind of happened. He was a frequency holder, as Eckhart calls it. He just like held this frequency of deep peace, and then attracted a bunch of followers around him who did. They built the ashram and raised the money and sorted it all out. And he just kind of went, okay, well, this is happening. I guess I'll go with it. And there was an element of doing, you know, that was involved there. But he didn't kind of initiate and said, right, now we're going to build an ashram, and you're going to raise this. No, that's not what he did at all. So, you know, we all have our kind of how we tap in, and you've got to figure that out and find that balance between being and doing. And if you can find it right for you, you'll lead a very happy and effective life on the level of form, because the balance is right, then you're doing enough. And the spirit, if you're in that state, you know, you're miracle minded. So you're sort of, maybe you're doing 30% of the time. Your 30% doing is better than most people's 100% doing, because you're miracle minded. You're tapping into another power, you know, that's really going to help you.
It's very reassuring, thank you. And yesterday's lesson, I place the future in the hands of God. That kind of, speaks to that as well, doesn't it? I end up feeling guilty because I think, I should be doing all these things, but actually I can let all that go now. And it often feels like I'm fighting fires, that I do what arises. So what's brought to my attention, and business-wise, it's usually Sally telling me, "Oh, this needs doing," and I'm like, "Oops, didn't notice."
Yeah. So, yeah, just flow with it. And if you've got a partner in your life, like Sally in business, who's a little bit more doing, that can be quite helpful. You know, because it's like, okay, well, you need to do. All right, I don't resist that. And then you just have to understand each other. It's like, okay, so one is a bit more being and one is a bit more doing, and that can actually be quite a good partnership, because it's like complementary. You know? So
I'm not a slacker, Sally. I'm busy being.
Yeah. Well, you know, so it's finding that balance, and it's for everyone to find that for themselves. You know, being and doing. Well, ultimately, we don't need to do anything. You know, I need to do nothing.
Yeah.
But try and live that way in practical terms in this life, and you're going to find it very difficult to not do anything. We don't have a society that's really set up to support that, do we? It's like everyone's expected.
No, we don't. As you said, in India, it's set up, isn't it, that you can do that, and even the last stage of your life, don't you? I can't remember what it's called, sannyasana or something.
Yeah, you can go, but generally, you know, then you would have created some kind of wealth, and you know, you've kind of set stuff up. But you know, if you want to go into one of the ashrams or something, you can. There are these places where you can go. Quite how it works financially now, I don't know, but you know, I think even India has gone more towards the doing. It's like, because it becomes westernized and it's all about money, and you've got to have a role, and if you're not productive, people go, you know, why aren't you pulling your weight, and you know, you're a slacker, and you know, there's all these kinds of judgments on people who are more being oriented, who are just frequency holders. You know, in our society, it's not really a place for them. It's like, what are you doing? No, it's like, come on, what do you do flowing? No, nothing. I just sit and be.
Holding frequency.
You know, I'm a frequency holder. I mean, how's that going to go down at, you know, a cocktail party? What do you do? No, I'm a frequency holder.
I'm gonna practice that. I'm gonna start telling people, because I never know what to tell them what I do. Anyways.
I'm a frequency holder. And someone's going to go, oh, what is that? Like, hello? Like, is that some new IT or tech or something? What frequencies are you talking about? No, I just hold the frequency of peace, and I sit in bliss for hours on end, because that's, you know, holding the frequency for many people. And most people are going to go, right, okay, so we got a little bit of a crazy one here, and they'll move on. Okay, well, I don't really know what to say to this person, so we'll just ignore
To be honest, most people I meet these days, I very rarely meet somebody who doesn't understand what I do, or that isn't on the same page in some way. So actually, I probably think that'll go down well. So I'm going to take that as my new job title.
Yeah. But if you went into, say, you know, an investment banking conference, what do you do?
Likely,
who do you work for? He said, I'm a frequency holder. They go like, what? You know, because it's like all about what you're doing, your position, what you're doing, who you've been with, what deals you've closed, da, 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 da. And so I kind of play in that world as well. But it's important to stay rooted in being, that you don't lose yourself in that world. It's just a game, really, in the end. And, you know, why are you playing the game? Are you playing it for spirit, or are you playing it for the ego? The ego, remember, is always self-invested. So what it's trying to do is big itself up, is make itself somehow bigger, more important through that activity. And that's then, you know, the activity, the function is being used by the ego. But you could do that thing in a very humble way. You know, it is possible to be a humble investment banker. They're not many, but I think it would be possible, because the spirit can come into anything that you're doing and say, okay, well, I can use this activity for my purposes. And this can be done with humility and grace and kindness and compassion. It's possible. Maybe, you know, there's certain activities not, like you couldn't be an assassin, for instance. Drug dealer, you know, no. I suppose you could say, well, if you're helping people to do spiritual transformation through ayahuasca, maybe, you know, but it's you got to judge. It's discernment required, because it's like there's some things like arms dealer. How can you be an arms dealer and be in spirit? Is that really possible? I don't think so, because you're profiting from selling weapons that are going to be used to kill people, profiting from death and suffering. That's not really something the spirit's ever going to guide you to do, is it? Just say, no, just don't do that activity. But most sort of normal things, you can bring the spirit into it, and it can just reinterpret it, and it can help you. Say, okay, well, you know, you can do that, but do it with my guidance, and flow with it. And then you know, it's your own hero's journey unfolding, your own learning. But you can also be a great benefit to the world, because if you've got certain talents and certain frequencies, the spirit can come in and say, okay, well, I can use that for the purposes of awakening, and it can become a beautiful, you know, miraculous unfolding that your life becomes when all of that merges together with a single purpose behind it of awakening. That everything is now directed towards this one singular purpose, and then you become on purpose. Your life has a focus, awakening, single purpose, but also a flow. You're flowing with life. Whatever's happening, you're able to flow with it, because the purpose of awakening is saying, well, just let it go, just flow, don't have resistance. And so you become like the water, just flowing down the stream towards the river. You don't, when you hit an obstacle like a rock, you just flow around it. It's not, I hit an obstacle, that's really sore, now I'm gonna, you know, have a drama about the obstacle for the next kilometer down the stream. No, it's just like, whoosh, off we go, flow. And it's over in a moment. You know, the obstacle's gone, and then I'm flowing on, and I'm free flow. And now I go down a waterfall. Ooh, that was fun. And then hit the rock. A bit of a bump, but you know, you just flow with all of it. And then eventually you merge with the ocean, which is the final destination of every drop of water in the river. You're going to get there eventually. You're just on a journey to get there, and enjoy the journey. You're going there anyway. You know, where every drop's going there. So why not just surrender to it? It's okay. Well, I'm just, you know, there's no resistance. The drops that have resistance have a hard time. It's like the river's flowing one way. You're going to the ocean. No, I want to go the other way. Oh, gee, no, that's going to be problematic. Very problematic, because there's a course, there's a direction of your life. We're all going to the ocean, whether you like it or not. You know, as Yeshua says, the curriculum is set. Only the time you take it is voluntary. So, you know, you as the drop could go, no, I don't want to go to the ocean. So I get stuck in a stagnant pond for a while, and you know, or I can get evaporated and I can go, I can do all kinds of things, but eventually I'm going to end up in the ocean. It's just a done deal. So the enlightened ones are just people who know that, and they surrender to it. It's okay, well, let me just surrender, and you take me and you show me. And so there's a movement, there's a flow to my life as I go down, but I'm rooted in my beingness. I realize I'm not the drop. I'm the ocean. I realize that's what I am. That's my true nature. So why would I resist going home to what I truly am? That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, these are just helpful analogies. We can do these analogies to help us to find our way, really, and live more effectively. Okay, Sally, any comments, questions?
Yeah, I get that totally about Yad being a frequency holder. And I can see that I've had a business partner before who was a doer. And so two of us being a bit more doing-ish. There was a lot of doing and it didn't feel quite right. So, yeah, that was very helpful seeing that.
Thank you.
Because initially when you started talking, I thought, oh dear, business partner that doesn't do. Oh, is that a good choice?
I do some things. It's just that I'm not. I do them when I kind of see that they need doing, or someone brings my attention to do it.
So there's a value in that, and then just understanding each other. Say, okay, well, this is the way this person's wired up. It's not that they're lazy or bad or not pulling their weight. It's just they're wired up differently from me, and that's okay. Because I appreciate that that's actually valuable. That from that beingness comes all effective doing. So now there's maybe that balances me a bit. So if I'm more towards the doing, together we kind of find a 50-50 balance. That's probably going to be in flux all the time. I mean, these things are. It's never like, okay, there it is, and we've got it forever. It's shifting and it's moving. But if you're kind of in that somewhat balanced state most of the time, then it's going to work. When it goes way out of balance, too much doing, business way out of balance, that's going to cause problems. And too much being, okay, you're not going to do anything. Well, the business is going to fall apart because there's no action happening. So on either extreme, that's not going to work. Somewhere there's a middle way there, and you've got to figure that out. As business partners, which is part of the dance and the holy relationship between you, which is is actually the whole point. You learn from each other.
Holy relationship. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, of course it is. Every relationship in this world is should be a holy relationship if it's seen right. Particularly if you're spending time with the person, there's interaction, engagement. That's a primary candidate for the holy relationship to bring holiness, pure formless awareness into it. So instead of being the specialness and the separation that comes with that, it's like, no, we're really one. And I see that. Even though there seem to be differences on the level of form, I appreciate who you really are beyond the form, the formless and the timeless. And I see that. And we're rooted in that. So we respect each other. Namaste, I respect you. I honor you because you are me and I am you. And we have different ways we express being in our lives. We have, like, everyone's got a different frequency. We call that a personality and character. And those differences are inevitable on the level of form. Of course, no one's wired up exactly the same. But the Holy Spirit helps you to overlook those and say, no, but actually what's really important is that you are the same self. There's really only one presence, and it's expressing through these two different, apparently two different vehicles as individuals, but actually you're not really separate. And if you find the holy relationship, you realize that, and you work beautifully as a team, because you go, well, I'm not really separate. I don't see separation anymore. I see unity. And our differences actually are complementary. Our differences, the Holy Spirit reinterprets them, says your differences are there to help you learn lessons and to complement each other, to enrich your learning, so that you can merge into this oneness, which the holy relationship is leading to. So remember what the real purpose of it, the purpose of any relationship. You might think it's the business, but actually it's the learning that you get through it. How that's awakening both of you. That's the only purpose. And so the business is like training wheels. Okay, well, you're going to work together, and you're going to have this this business which you're going to work on. But It's the lessons that you learn in the process that are really important. Because in the end, the business is in the end, every business fails. It's inevitable in the end. It might last your whole life, but when you die, then it's probably, the business is gonna stop, isn't it? So in the end, the business is temporary. It's just part of form. But what's timeless and eternal is your beingness, and so that's the most important. So so just not to lose sight of that. If you lose sight of that and you go only into doing, then it becomes flatland. Let me show my screen. It becomes too much rooted in the external dimension. Show you the integral model just briefly. So observe behaviors, performance, outcomes, systems, organizational structure. If you just rooted in that, and that's sort of, we can observe that in big companies that have really divorced themselves from spirit, are just focused on this. There's a kind of a soullessness to it. It's like all very clinical, and the purpose of the business is to make money. And this is really the problem with our modern capitalist-oriented society. Is too much emphasis on the doing, on behavior and form and systems and structure and processes, and they've lost sight. The businesses have lost sight of, well, why are we doing this? What is the purpose? What is the meaning? So people like Simon Sinek, he says, I'm ashamed to have a business career, which is because this should be standard. Everyone should know why they're doing something. That's just like foundational principle. I shouldn't have to speak to remind people of this fundamental truth. Why am I doing something? But in business, people have lost sight of that. So then, he has a role to remind them, like, why? Ask why. Why am I doing it? Because that's a being question, not a doing question. So the how-to, most people focus on the how-to. How do I make more money? How do I operationalize the process? But very few ask, well, why are we doing this? But the why will inform the how. So if you have a true reason, and that actually makes the business sustainable. So I used an example the other day, but I'll mention it again. Kodak. Remember Kodak? Years ago, took photos, and they were the market leaders. They were the global leaders. Guess what? Kodak invented digital photography. You probably didn't know that, but they did. In 1975, there was a guy who invented it, and he went to the executives and he said, look, this is what I've got. And they shelved it. They said, no, we're not going to do this, because they'd lost sight of their purpose. They thought that was going to hurt their film sales, because they thought that their company was about making money and selling more film. And they'd forgotten that their purpose as a company was to bring photographs to people, to bring people the ability to take photographs, to enjoy the photographs, to get pleasure and enjoyment from these photos, however that looked. The technology was just an enabler. It wasn't about selling more film. It was about that purpose. And if they'd held to their purpose, that company would probably be thriving today, because they would have gone digital photography. It would have hurt their film sales temporarily, but they would have become the market leaders, and but it killed the company because they lost sight of their purpose. So it's primary, it's fundamental, foundational. In the short term, the film sales seemed to be a smart idea, but in the long term, it was disastrous. So that's just an example of how this can work in practical. They lost sight of being, and they got too much into doing, and that killed the company. So the balance is extremely important, even at that level. Companies think, oh, well, we're too big, we can't possibly fail, because you absolutely can. You get that balance wrong, and you go too much into doing, and very quickly you can fail. It's been shown time and time again. So, shall we have a look at our quote and a bit of teaching around that, and then go into the lesson? How much time? I've got to go at 3 o'clock.
I've got to go now, actually, John. Sorry, I've got to go to the airport and pick up my son. So thank you so much, though. I'm so grateful for everything you've just shared today, and it's really helped me bring myself back to me and remembering what's important. So thank you so much. I'll speak to you soon.
See you soon. See you next week. Have a good weekend. Namaste.
Bye.
Okay, let's crack on. Sally, if you want to read that quote, shall I expand it a bit? Let's make it a bit bigger. You can read it. So
Yes.
gratitude.
Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity, and it can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. By Melody Beattie.
Yeah, nice one. I like that. You know, the fullness of life. So it's a good reminder about this, you know, really transformative power of gratitude. That's what she's talking. You know, the miraculous power, meal into a feast, house into a home, stranger into a friend. It's all perceptual shift she's talking about. So gratitude is the instrument of miracles. And as she says, it unlocks what she calls the fullness of life, which it's been in various translations. It's been called the fullness of life. Yeshua called it the fullness of life. Maybe she's actually drawing from this quote from the Bible. I don't know. But Yeshua called it abundant life. Most of the time, it's translated in this quote as abundant life. You have life and may have it abundantly. If you want to read that quote, please.
The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come so that they may have life and may have it abundantly.
And so what does he really mean? What does it mean to live an abundant life? And a lot of evangelical ministers and pastors, particularly in the US, have misinterpreted this quote. Oh, well, it's all about material abundance then. You know, abundant life means material abundance. And so they live these fancy lifestyles and they have jets. And I mean, it's just extreme wealth. The amount of money that gets generated by some of these ministries is extraordinary. But it's a misinterpretation of what he really meant. He didn't mean that you should go out and seek material wealth. Abundant life is pointing to an experience. It means to live life in a state of unconditional love and joy and peace and gratitude. But love and gratitude will do. If you can experience unconditional love and gratitude for all your experiences as they happen in each moment, that's about love. That's a state of being connected to your being and flowing in life. The being is now directing the doing. You're interpreting every situation differently, and your experience of life is rich or full or abundant. And from that comes your words and your actions, which then inspire you maybe to do certain things that bring material stuff to you, or they don't. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. It just depends on what your frequency is. But it's primarily the experience. So experiences roots you in your beingness. It's never about the form. It's about the experience in moment by moment by moment. Which actually should be completely obvious. Of course it's about your experience. I mean, what else do you have but your present moment experience of life, moment by moment by moment? I mean, that's life. That's how life unfolds. And yet, the ego's hijacked that and trying to get us to forget that and focus on the form. Say, no. Well, if you get this and you do this, then in the level of form, you create an expectation. Then you'll be happy. And so now you've separated yourself from the present moment, and your satisfaction lies somewhere in the future, down the line, always in the future. And of course, that never comes. You work really hard, even if you achieve the goal, you might be satisfied for a very short time, and then it's like, oh, that pattern of desiring, craving, desiring, expecting, and having to find it in the future will return. So as the Buddha said, craving or desire is never going to bring you happiness. It's going to bring you dukkha, suffering, dissatisfaction. Whereas unconditional love and gratitude are, well, right here and now, I can experience that. You might say, well, how is this possible? How do I actually live this way when life is such a mixed bag? How can I be grateful for the seemingly terrible things? Yeshua mentions in this quote, the thief, he's talking about the ego here, comes only to steal and kill and destroy. Okay, so it's all this kind of dark stuff seems to happen in this world. That happens, maybe it happened to you, it happened to other people. So, it comes down to, again, mastering the art of letting go. It's absolutely essential. Truly letting go enables you to reinterpret even the most seemingly painful experiences as blessings, and to be truly grateful for them by perceiving them correctly, as the projections of your own ego or belief in separation that show you the negative effects of this belief, and they help you make the decision to let it go. So that's absolutely key. We talked yesterday with Chris. It's like you have to see it's your projection. And so even if it's really, really, was really horrible, awful, tough at the time, I see that this is an important lesson for me, because it's showing me my own belief system projected out. Now I can see it in the form of the world. I can experience it firsthand. That experience is, awful, painful, etc. But by having that experience, I now have the opportunity to let go of those beliefs. So do I want these beliefs if they make me suffer so much and this is what they do? No. So now I have the chance to truly let them go, make a decision against them for the spirit, to let go of this ego, and then the experiences, I can be grateful for it because it's freed me from this belief in separation that's deep-seated and is sabotaging my life. So even the most painful things reinterpreted, you can be grateful for, but you need the letting go idea to do that. You need to understand the metaphysics of the course, that ultimately this reality is not ultimately true, it's an illusion, and that letting go is then the way out, the way to get to this other dimension. And that will help you to be grateful for whatever shows up in your life, even the painful things. Any thoughts on that?
No, totally agree.
Yeah. So just, we've been through this, but it's just reframing, talking again about the truth. So if you want to read, this isn't just to read the last couple of paragraphs. This is an entirely opposite way of thinking.
This is an entirely opposite way of thinking and perceiving the world compared with the ego's upside-down thought system and equally false related perceptions that make these projections, and therefore the belief in separation that seemingly causes them, real to you. But how do I actually learn to think in this right-minded way, you might ask? The short answer is by practicing daily mind training lessons.
So, the rubber meets the road in these lessons. He's saying to do it every day, because every day you're training your mind to think in this way. And he's giving you very practical exercises to do that, to work with whatever issues are arising in your life, past and present, and apply these ideas to help you to let go, so you're thinking in a right-minded way. And you are systematically and progressively, if you practice the lessons properly, just by doing them, you will be undoing your ego, because that's the way they're designed. They're saying, look, you don't have to design this. I've designed it. You just have to do the program. Do it. And if you do it, you'll get the benefit, because that's the way it's designed. It's designed to give you those benefits if you practice. So, the question is, do you practice? Are you going to practice, as he suggests, twice a day for at least 10 minutes, morning and evening, and then, frequently during the day? And obviously, the more you practice, the more you're training your mind in this new way of thinking. The more you're undoing the ego, rewiring yourself to think in this, profoundly opposite way. It's a complete reversal of your previous thought system, which is why we struggle with it, because it's not a slight adjustment. It's like a complete reversal. You're turning around. You're going the opposite direction. This is why it takes a lot of mind training, because our minds are so entrained to thinking in the ego that's like, okay, well, we just by default go there. And then it's the awareness go, no, don't go there. That's actually going in the wrong direction. You start catching the thoughts, and you start catching the emotions before they develop into a full-blown pattern that takes you down a dark hole. You stop it and you turn around. So no, and you use the daily lesson frequently in the day to help you to do that, to interrupt the ego's pattern. So it's a really good mind training course. If you look at how you're going to train your mind differently, totally reverse your thinking from a very deep-seated, entrenched thought system. Well, this would be how you're going to do it, isn't it? You'd have to do it frequently, frequent repetitions, longer periods where you access more being, and then frequently in the day, you're gonna just interrupt the ego's pattern with these ideas. And so then your life becomes your mind training. As the things come in to trigger you and disturb you, you then apply the lessons and to the life situations, and that becomes how you learn these lessons. So you actually need the lessons. You need to be active in the world to get the lessons. So the doing dimension can really serve you then, because in doing you get these lessons, and then you get the opportunity to let them go and correct your mind. And that's the miracle when you do that. When you take a life situation that's challenging and difficult, and you use these principles to let it go and to find peace, there's the miracle. If you keep doing that, you're living in a miracle-minded way. You have miracles happening every day then, and you don't necessarily need to see the effects of them immediately. It's like, okay, I shifted that, I let it go. That's a miracle. And you do that many times a day. This is how you correct your mind, and you retrain your mind to think in this entirely different way. And so, all the Art of Letting Go program does is it helps you. It says, okay, well, let's make it a bit easier. So here's some breath breaks, here's some meditation recordings, here's some mind training material every day, here's some live sessions you can join, here's some other tools like the Letting Go process written worksheet. I think a lot of people don't even know about that. People who are new on the program don't even know these tools are there. Well, it's all there, to help you. The longer meditation, the theta meditation, these are all there to help you in this practice of letting go. And so it's included in every email. It's all there, and you can tap into it and use it whenever you want to. So anyone listening to the recording, scroll down, go a little bit further down. It is quite a long email because of that, but this is a reference section. The ideal schedule, you don't necessarily have to follow this rigidly, but it'll give you an idea of what you can do if you dip into this. Okay, well, what I do this morning, well, there's 4 meditations there you can do, all of which incorporate the 10-step letting go process. So a deep letting go in half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour, depending on how much time you have. And then there's some other stuff, the essence statement. So you could spend a few minutes on that, say a helpfulness prayer, say your statement of higher purpose. So you could spend a longer time on that if you want to. There's recordings here that'll help you to really immerse yourself in it, or just do it quickly. You can do it in a couple of minutes. And so you create your own spiritual practice out of this. And then in the day, I'm saying, well, here's your breath break. Remember to do that. Here's your meditation for the morning to do a longer practice period. And then join the live session. If you can't do that, listen to the recording in the evening. And, remember to do your end of day reflection. So it's all there, and you just dip into it. You could dip into this email several times in the day and just go, oh, okay, well, there's a meditation. Great. 29-minute evening meditation. Okay. Click the link, and, there we are. So that's just a quick run through. It's there, it's there to help you to do this, to systematically and progressively master the art of letting go in your life. That's what the program's designed to help you do, and you use it as you can. And just to point to anyone listening to recordings, don't get overwhelmed. Just do what, there's a whole, you could spend many hours a day on this, but you pick and choose, pick what works for you, and then you design your program accordingly. This is just the ideal, the template, and then, you choose. So for you, Sally, maybe you speak to that. You've worked out in the last few months, like what works for you.
Yeah, so I read the Telegram message, and I do the long meditation, and then a couple of hours of doing other stuff, and then I come back and do a breath break. If anything occurs during the day, I do the instrument of peace, or the letting go process, or the theta meditation. And then, another breath break in the afternoon, long one in the evening before I go to bed. And I've got all the tools there if I need to tap into them. So if there's something else coming up, I just do some more meditations. Sometimes I put the meditations on, just let them run. So it goes a long one, a short one, a long one, a short one. I'm somebody that likes to move, so I like to walk to be able to process information. So I might listen to it while I'm out walking, and it gets me back into the state again, and it's easier to carry on. And I've got my essence statement stuck to the mirror and various places just to remind me of that. I mean, I can see why people would get overwhelmed if they were trying to do it all, but it certainly is just pick and choose. It's like a buffet, isn't it? You can't eat it all the time, because bits that that work for you on that particular day. It's really nice having all that available. You don't have to go anywhere else and look for it and think, well, I'll try a bit of this and I'll try a bit of that. It's all in one place, which is
yeah. I mean, I wanted to make the program comprehensive. It's like, okay, so you can get everything. You can really go very deep into this program if you want to, and spend hours and hours a day. So that's available. But then do what you've done, customize it, and go, okay, so what generally in a day, what works for me. So you have a kind of a basic structure, it sounds like, which you try and keep to. And then you flow with that. So, okay, well, today something's arising, so maybe I need a bit more meditation, or I'll use the instrument for peace, or I'll use the 10-step process. And then, you're in charge. This is the beauty. I mean, it's really the spirit in charge, but it's like you using the tools, and you directing your own spiritual program accordingly, and saying, well, what do I feel, is right today for me? And then I've got the toolbox, and I can go, oh, okay, well, I've got that's going to help me. That's going to help me. That's going to help me. And so you're actually in charge. You're empowered. No one's telling you, you have to stay in this rigid schedule. You flow with it. And these are just all the tools and some ideas of how you can structure it, to have a little bit of structure, because it's useful to do something in the morning. I think do something in the morning, do something in the evening, create a bit of structure to do that, so that you set yourself up for the day and you end the day on a good note. That makes a lot of sense, which is why Yeshua recommends it. But within that, then you flow with it. Okay, so maybe you can't do a breath break every hour, but you can do a couple in the morning. That's great. You've done 10 minutes that you wouldn't have done. And and so I think we need to, instead of beating ourselves up for not doing it perfectly, which is just more ego, go, okay, well, I'm doing it. I'm doing it, as I do it. I'm doing it my way, and that's cool, because it has to be my way for it to work. And I think that's what you've done, and then you're in a flow with it, and then the program's really going to work for you if you can find that flow. I think because you've done a lot of stuff, or you're fairly disciplined, you're able to fit this into that. If you're not quite as disciplined, then you might initially need to go, okay, well, let me just try and stick to this sort of a bit more closely to build a bit of discipline, so that I kind of get into the habit of doing these things morning and evening, and I've got a bit of a structure. And then I can introduce other things and kind of flow with it some more. So it just everyone's individual, and they're going to be where they're going to be. But this can work for anyone, whatever state of mind you're in. Just use this accordingly. Use this daily schedule and adapt it to your needs. Okay, so I think that leads us into today's lesson, which is I'm actually going to use it in Word, I think, because just in case we've got anything, I have actually done most of the translation, so that'll save us some time, but there might be some extra bits we're going to put in here. All right, so how long do you have, Zoe? Do you have until 3 o'clock?
Yes, I have.
Okay, great. So we might actually get through the whole thing. So love is the way I walk in gratitude. Here's this lesson, which is a nice one. I like gratitude and love go hand in hand, really. Powerful complementary frequencies. So let's hear what Yeshua has to say about gratitude and love.
Gratitude is a lesson hard to learn for those who look upon the world and miss. The most that they can do is see themselves as better off than others. And they try to be content because another seems to suffer more than they. How pitiful and depreciating are such thoughts.
Deprecating.
For who has cause for thanks while others have less cause? And who could suffer less because he sees another suffer more? Your gratitude is due to him alone, who made all cause of sorrow disappear throughout the world. Yeah, that is so true, isn't it? That the majority of people feel better because they see others suffer. And that's why things like EastEnders and those sort of traumatic soap operas seem to work, because people go, oh, my life's not that bad. I'm all right. It's crazy.
Yeah. It was comparative. The ego is always comparative. And people say, well, you should be grateful because there are people, suffering in Africa or wherever, and they don't have a meal. So, like, you're not starving. So But it's erroneous thinking. You shouldn't be grateful because you're better off on the level of form. It makes the level of form real. It makes that whole comparison real. So the problem is if you're better off, you could also be worse off. You see, the comparative standard isn't really going to serve you, because you could go, yeah, well, I'm better off than people in Ethiopia starving, but I'm worse off compared to multimillionaires who have corporate private jets and eating fancy meals in London. It's funny actually. This lesson comes up because yesterday we were looking at a Facebook post, and this was someone I was in business with years ago. And it's like, well, they're splashing the cash in London. They're going to like fancy restaurants. The whole meal's been shown. And you notice the tendency to go, oh, I'm not doing that. Why are they living the high life and I'm not? That's the ego script of comparison immediately. And it's like, no, just don't indulge in that thinking in any way, shape, or form. So this is why he's saying don't say you're better off, because you're also then going to compare yourself to people who are better off than you, and then you're going to feel less than. So don't go there. Just have gratitude for this power, this presence. He calls him to it alone. I think we need a bit of translation there. Perhaps to pure formless awareness, because we haven't actually had that. It's just he normally names it and then says it in the next paragraph, but this he's just gone straight into it. Due to pure formless awareness of perfect love alone, which made all cause of sorrow disappear. And I think that should not be past tense. I think that should be, which makes. What do you think?
Definitely.
In the present moment, it makes all cause of sorrow disappear throughout the world, because it's a present moment process. It makes all cause of sorrow disappear throughout the world. So whenever sorrow arises, this is the antidote. And so gratitude, you can see, is connecting it directly with this pure formless awareness of perfect love, the essence. Okay, so any thoughts on that?
No, it makes sense. It's interesting you just said that gratitude is pure formless awareness, and I always kind of see them as slightly different frequencies, but they're all in the oneness, aren't they? So that's good to remember.
Now, all of these, we have names for the different frequencies, feelings, really. Gratitude. We go, okay, well, that's gratitude, and we have a name for it, and that, is this. And then we have joy, and that's another kind of frequency and another kind of feeling. And happiness, maybe got a slightly different frequency and feeling for people, and peace and love. But in the end, they are just different aspects. We experience them maybe slightly differently in our seemingly separated state, but they are all pointers. It's like you're seeing a diamond, but you're seeing it from a different angle. Okay, so you see the facet of that diamond. Oh, okay, so that's gratitude. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, look at it differently. You see joy. You experience joy. In the end, it's all the same, because it's the same source of all of it, which is what he's pointing out here. Gratitude is due only to the source, the pure formless awareness of perfect love alone, which makes all cause of sorrow disappear throughout the world. It's the same source, and then how can you not feel gratitude for that source? But you can be joyful at the same time. I'm joyful and I'm grateful for my joy. I'm grateful for the experience of joy. I'm grateful for the flow that this brings into my life. I'm grateful for the peace that I can experience in any moment if I just tap into this. And so it becomes one thing. The more you do this, you go, actually, these are not separate things. Gratitude, love, peace, joy, they're not separate things or qualities. They're all part of the one presence, the one awareness, which I'm allowing myself to experience more and more of. And then I might call that experience joy, or I might call that gratitude. But in the end, they're just words. And the words can't really actually do justice to the experience, can they? Mm-hmm. Does gratitude really describe the feeling of deep gratitude that you can experience. No, it doesn't really. It's just a pointer. But we have to point to it with some kind of word. And then, at the highest level of each experience, is it really different? Is gratitude really different from joy? If you're actually deeply in that experience, is it? It's very difficult to start making distinctions. Oh, well, that's clearly gratitude, and now we delineate gratitude like this, and we put a box around it, and that's clearly joy. It doesn't work that way, because it all merges into one. It's one experience, and ultimately, if we can open to that experience, we can have gratitude, love, peace, joy all the time, just in this amazing feeling you couldn't even put words to. Ineffable. If you recall, in this manual, we go to where it's page 11. At the top level, it's ineffable. The emotion is ineffable. That means indescribable. You can't really put words to it. I can't call it gratitude or bliss, or there's various other words leading up to it. I can't really call it anything. It's just pure formless awareness, or as consciousness, pure consciousness, as David Hawkins called it. Same thing. Just the pure formless awareness of perfect love. You can't really name it. The Tao that can be named isn't really the Tao, said Lao Tzu 2,500 years ago, because it's ineffable. You can't really even put a word to it. The words are useful pointers on the journey, as you see: joy, love, peace, reason, acceptance. These are all helpful concepts to eventually deliver you into the pure formless awareness of perfect love, where it all disappears, and you're just in that perfect experience of who you really are, which is where this is all leading. Okay, happy with that? Shall we move on to number 2?
Okay.
Read the translation. Isn't actually too much translation to do in this one, so.
Okay. It is insane to offer thanks because of suffering. It is equally insane to fail in gratitude. One who offers you the certain means by all pain is healed and suffering replaced with laughter and with happiness. Nor could thee, that doesn't quite work, does it? Nor could thee even, thee even partly sane refuse to take the steps which he directs, and follow in the way it sets before them, to escape a prison that they thought contained no door to the deliverance they now perceive.
Yeah. Anything else need to change? Equally insane to fail in gratitude. To instead of fail in gratitude, I think we just say be ungrateful. How about that? It's a bit simpler. Okay, so any thoughts on that?
When it says, nor could thee even partly sane, you're just going to leave it like that? Doesn't quite flow for me.
Yeah, what he's referring to is the even partly sane, some person. Could the even partly sane as a person, but we can see if we can improve it. Nor could the even partly, if we put in person, does that work? Nor could the even partly sane person refuse to take the steps which it directs.
Yeah, that does help.
It doesn't normally use person in, nor could the even partly sane mind, maybe. Person, mind, awareness.
Person worked for me a bit better.
Person works. Okay, we'll go with what works for you. You're the test for the audience out there. So hopefully that'll be representative of what other people will think as well. But yeah, I think that works.
It humanizes it, doesn't it? And instead of making it kind of just a head thought.
Yeah. Even the partly sane person refused to take the steps which it directs, follows in the way. So even if you're just partly sane, you're saying, look, there's still hope for you. You have some part of your mind that's sane. It recognizes that the ego is insane and is connected with beingness. Take the steps which it directs and follow in the way it sets before them. And take the commas out. Following the way it sets before them, it directs them. Following the way it sets before them, following the way it directs them.
Guides them.
Following
Guides.
the way it guides them. Yeah, actually, it sets before them. Following the way it guides them. To escape a prison that they thought contained no door to the deliverance they now perceive. And if we follow in this way, we'll, escape the prison of the ego, of the belief in separation, which we may have thought contained no door to the deliverance they now perceive. We didn't see a way out, and now we see there is a way.
Yeah, that's how it feels, isn't it? When you're in a really deep place and you're in that really shut down fear place, depressed, whatever, you just can't see the door. You don't have access to the door, so you just don't there, do you?
And so he's trying to open that door for everyone. So look, there's hope here. In fact, it's very simple. It's just a change in your mind. These lessons will help you to do that. Just if you're willing, just work. Do the work. Use these lessons, and it's inevitable that you will start undoing the ego and feeling a lot happier.
Sometimes it's trying to get yourself to do it, though, isn't it? When you're in a deep dark place, it doesn't. You don't tend to have enough flow energy to get you to do those type of things, but then maybe grace comes in and helps.
Yeah, often that is the way it happens. So you get a shock. Then maybe there's a trauma or something that okay, you have to do something now. You literally kicked out of the uncomfortable comfort zone you were in. Something's come in, and that's to help you. It may seem to be very awful and shocking, but it's there as a catalyst for your hero's journey, to create the impetus, the necessary impetus to take the journey. So the idea of the hero's journey is that there's a movement that's required in order to do this. No, you're not rooted in your being. You're stuck in the ego. There needs to be a movement. There needs to be a transformation. And so movement and then flowing in that movement with the guidance of the Holy Spirit is essential in transformation. It's a movement from one state to another that's being directed. So these principles of flow, how does this energy move in you? How does the being move you in your life and direct you on a journey? This becomes a primary subject to study, which is why this has been studied. This is a very old, ancient teaching, and in China they studied this in depth, and they went into what's being, the Tao, and doing, Wu Wei they call it. And so how does this being and this doing, how do they interact? And Taoism was an attempt to frame that and help people to understand it and live it as a practical living philosophy. Rather than a religion. I mean, it's classified as a religion, but the Eastern traditions were much more philosophical, much more about, well, how do you actually live this, than, oh, there's some God, theological God that you have to believe in, and there's the dogma, a very different approach. So what we're really doing with this translation is we're taking that more mindful Eastern approach, using some of that language and incorporating it into Course in Miracles, so people have access to that, to really what they were talking about with these, the profound teaching that's in the Course, which is using the Christian terms that are often associated with the dogmatic, fundamentalist God, some off-planet God out there who's a big man in the sky judging you. That's why we changed the language, to bring in more of this kind of flowing being dimension that the Eastern teachings have into the Course. Okay.
What I got from that was actually a wake-up call is a good thing, because if you were in a low vibe and you were just in depression and fear for a long period of time, and those around you facilitated it and held you in that place, then actually some disaster coming along is probably the best thing ever. I know you've said that before, but it just resonated just then, like, so it really is a gift from God, isn't it? Like something comes along to give you that miracle transformation. Well,
that's the call to adventure is exactly that. At the start of the hero's journey, it doesn't always come in a pleasant form. Oh, come here, it's all going to be nice. This can be like, whoa, like when Chris mentioned his experience, it's like, wow, that's pretty shocking. But that's your call to adventure. It's jolted you out of the known normal world into the unknown world. Unwillingly, you didn't want to go there, but you kind of had to, you were forced to by the circumstances. And so then that's the start of your hero's journey. And actually looking back, you go, oh, that was actually necessary, or that was unpleasant, because I was attached to my normal known world. It was necessary for me to grow. So actually, in hindsight, that was all good, and I can see how the Spirit was behind all of it. So at some point in the course, Yeshua says, and you will know that the Holy Spirit, this beneficent presence, has been behind everything in your life. It's been blessing you in everything, even in these darkest times. The blessing's always there. You just can't see it because you're too rooted in your ego's interpretation of it to see that actually this is designed to free you from your prison. And it requires a bit of a shock sometimes and a jolt to get you out of that prison and get you moving again. So yeah, the hero's journey it's a really useful. It works hand in glove with us because it's a universal conception. Joseph Campbell tapped into what was a universal pattern and said, this is how it works. This is how the spiritual journey works. It's really a map of the spiritual journey that's universal and timeless. Okay, happy with number 2?
Yep.
Moving on to number 3 then.
Your companion is your enemy because you see in it the rival of
him. You see
in him.
We'll make it her, shall we? See in her.
Rival for your peace, a plunder who takes its joy from you and leaves you nothing but a black despair so bitter and relentless that there is no hope remaining. Now is vengeance all there is to wish for. How can you but try to bring it down to lie in death with you? Now you can only try to bring it down.
Sorry, I just did a group general translation. Only try to bring her down.
To lie in death with you, as useless as yourself, as little left within its grasping fingers as in yours. Grasping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whoa, pretty dramatic stuff there. So he's giving us another one of those paragraphs, saying, look, this is the ego's thought system. There it is, exposed in all of its ugliness. So look at it, and do you want this? Do you want this or not? See in her the rival for your peace. So this is the special relationship. Someone is actually a rival. They're not your brother. They're actually taking your peace from you. And they leave you nothing but a black despair. And so now vengeance seems to be justified. And you try and bring that person down to lie in death with you, to kill them, as useless as yourself, as little left within her grasping fingers as in yours. You're all pretty bleak and despairing, really. Which is why he's using these strong words to highlight the absolute futility of this kind of thought system of vengeance and attack. You're just trying to bring the person down to die with you. Well, I mean, this is just insane thinking. Why both of you are eternal, and now you want to kill both of you, and exist in this miserable condition, which is a pure fantasy. You've just invented this. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever to want to live your life like that.
It's that feeling of there's a lack of peace, isn't there? Like there's a limitation to the peace. Either you're having it or I'm having it. So I'm going to fight you to the death. So I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's insane when you look at it exposed like this. It's like, how can I possibly think that would bring me peace? Peace has got to be shared. That's its nature. We share in the peace of oneness, or we separate it, and neither of us have peace. So it's a joint venture, or it's no venture at all, or we're doing nothing. We're just playing around in the ego's thought system of death and despair. So, what I like about his teaching is he's very like, look, here it is. He's calling it as it is. He's saying, look, this is really dark. You do not want this thought system at all. So make a choice. Make a choice now for the spirit, and only the spirit. The ego, in any way, shape, or form, if you believe in it, is bringing you to this. This is what underlies it. It's a very dark thought system. You cannot make what's dark light. You simply let it go. So you're not trying to reform the ego, modify it, make it better, dress it up. You're not trying to do that. This isn't the approach. You're just trying to let it go completely and replace it entirely with the spirit, true awareness, and that thought system that's now going to direct you from the spirit. Okay, so any thoughts on that?
So talking about peace, the rival for peace, but that's also like the rival for abundance or money. It's the same fight, isn't it, that we see?
Yeah, so we wouldn't often see it as, oh, this is a rival for my peace. No, it's more like you're a rival for scarce resources, money, time. These are the things we quibble over, we argue over in the world. But actually, this is all used by the ego just to generate separation, to perpetuate the belief in separation, and make sure neither of you get back to the peace of God that passes all understanding, to the oneness. That you both remain in separation forever, and you both suffer and die in the ego's thought system. So no one wins, actually. If you play the ego's game, no one ultimately will win. You'll both lose because you're both miserable and you suffer and you die. And that's just a really crazy, dysfunctional thought system to put your faith in. As Yeshua says at some point, the ego is a singularly unfortunate choice of a guide in this world. Singularly unfortunate, he called it, because it's insane and it's leading one way to death and despair. There's no hope in it. So why would you possibly choose that? As he points out there in that paragraph. Fortunately, he never leaves us there. So gives us one paragraph of, have a little dive into the darkness, see what it is, and then brings us back up into the light of true awareness. So if you want to read paragraph 4 in the translated version.
You do not offer pure formless awareness of perfect love your gratitude because your companion is more slave than you, nor could you sanely be enraged if he seems freer. Life makes no comparisons, and gratitude can only be sincere if it be joined to love. We offer thanks to pure formless awareness of perfect love, our source, that in us all things will find their freedom. It will never be that some are loosed. Some are loosed. What does that? Doesn't make sense. Is that a real word?
Yeah. It is actually. He uses it, if you recall, in lesson 133, I think it is. I loosed the world from all I thought it was. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember. But...
Yeah. So we just translated it as release, because it's a strange use of the verb. That all things are loosed while others still are bound. So the opposite of bound. So I think released, maybe.
Only time I've ever heard a word like loosed is moose. I don't know if you ever heard that advert about something about we lost the moose. Can't remember how it went now. It was something about loose.
We loose the moose.
Moose, where's the moose? I don't know. Can't remember, but it used to be funny. Anyway, yeah. It will never be that some are released while others still are bound. For who can bargain in the name of love? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so any thoughts on that? Questions, comments?
But see it all the time, don't you, where somebody is insanely jealous because somebody looks freer, somebody is enjoying their and then a reaction to that.
Yeah, some are released while others still are bound. So Love makes no comparisons. That's what stands out for me there. Love makes no comparisons. So you don't compare yourself to others in any way. Because if you do that, you're now in the ego on the level of form, and you will feel either better than or less than other people. And the ego doesn't really mind, because either way, better than or less than, you're not one with them, are you? You're not equal. There's a separation. So one of the hallmarks of the ego is always comparison. Constantly comparing yourself to others. Now, how am I doing? How do I measure up? Well, by that standard, I measure up quite well. So that kind of bigs me up. But if I compare myself to someone else who seems to be, bigger, better living, then I don't measure up. And then we feel a separation from our beingness in that, because now we're identifying falsely with form and an identity that's not real. Whereas it's saying love makes no comparisons, it just is. Love doesn't judge any of these things as real. The beauty of the Course's thought system is it's so simple. He's saying none of it's real. So don't compare to what's unreal. It makes no difference. Bigger, smaller, richer, poorer, fatter, thinner, all these distinctions on the level of form actually mean nothing, because they're all unreal. The only thing that means anything is this pure formless awareness of perfect love that underlies them all. And so that's how we let go. Okay, well, all of these seeming dualities, distinctions, opposites on the level of form mean nothing. They're all false. So why would I judge one as better than another when they're all false? And then I have the key to freedom, because then I'm totally free from that entire thought system of duality and ups and downs and comparison, and I just collapse it all. And I rest in the pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is my source, where comparison is meaningless, because there's only one thing. There's not even a thing. There's one awareness. One awareness. You can't compare. If that awareness is all the same, the comparison is meaningless, isn't it? Because I'm comparing the same with the same. It's the same. There's no need for comparison. Comparison implies separation by definition. Oh, there's this or that. Okay, now they're separate things. Now I compare them. Which is why the ego likes it, and the spirit says no, don't indulge in it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, happy with that paragraph?
Yep, lovely.
I think I did a summary for you. So next one, number 5.
Therefore give thanks, but in sincerity, and let your gratitude make room for all who will escape with you, the sick, the weak, the needy, and afraid, and those who mourn a seeming loss or feel apparent pain, who suffer cold or hunger, or who walk the way of hatred and the path of death. All these go with you. Let us not compare ourselves with them. Thus we split them off from our awareness of the unity we share with them, as they must share with us. Hear the words, and I understand it at some level, but when somebody's in pain, it's really hard, isn't it? It's like pain seems to take everything over. Once you're in it, to get out of it.
Yeah, so he's saying to us, let us not compare ourselves with them.
Yeah, I just
don't say, oh, I'm grateful because I'm so much better off than these people who are suffering. Because what you do then is you split them off from your awareness, and they're not one with you anymore. They're separate from you. And then you're making pain and suffering and sickness and all of this real. They're saying, don't go there. This is not really forgiveness or letting go. Just see them as they truly are. They are one with you. Namaste. Even in their pain, the sick, the weak, if you're facing that, you see them as they truly are, because only that presence in you is really going to heal them. Sympathy, oh, shame, poor you, you're really suffering. That's not helping them. That makes their victim story worse. They really think they are suffering. and then you're perpetuating the illusion. So you might think you're helping them, but you're not helping them to escape from their self-created situation. They made it up. They've created that for themselves. The only way out of that is perfect love. Pure formless awareness of perfect love will show them the way out.
Yeah,
you become the presence that brings that presence to them. It says, look, this is another way here.
Yeah, I took on that story, didn't I, that they were in pain, and that's not the truth.
Yeah, I think, Yeshua, I mean, he dealt with a lot of people who were in pain, they were sick. There was a lot of dysfunction in his society. They didn't have the kind of technology and the sort of comfortable middle class existence we have today. But I don't think he saw the pain. He didn't see the sickness. He didn't see the pain. He just held that frequency of pure love, pure formless awareness of perfect love so fully that he brought them into it. He brought them into that field, and then often miraculous healings happen because they felt the energy. They didn't resist it, and the healing would happen. But if he'd gone into sympathy and gone, oh, poor you, you're really suffering and you're really sick and you're really dying, he couldn't have done the healings and the miracles. It's because he held a frequency that wasn't touched by any of those so purely and so fully. He was the frequency holder for people that they were able to then come into that themselves. So, it doesn't really serve anyone to go, oh yeah, I see your pain and I feel your pain. You don't want to feel their pain. Don't feel their pain. That's getting lost. That's drowning with them in the pain. That's not what he's saying. He's saying empathy can go, okay, I understand that you have this delusion that you're in pain. I understand that because I've been there. I understand. I can, but I recognize that the pain isn't true and the pain isn't real. And this is part of the story that you've told yourself over and over and over again. And I, as the miracle worker, can come in and I can help you to free yourself from that mental bondage, the story that you've told yourself about yourself, that you're a victim and you deserve to suffer and you deserve the pain. I can bring in the presence of perfect love and I can show you that the story isn't true. And I can show you that there's a way out of the self-created prison that you've created for yourself. And I can do that just by my example. If I'm just rooted in my own presence, that's an example. I don't even need to say anything necessarily. Because you will feel that energy, you will feel that power. And if you're open to it, that power can heal you. And then maybe on the level of form that plays out, like we have a discussion and I talk about A Course in Miracles, and then that opens up a spiritual path for you. Maybe not. Maybe you just hold the present for someone and they feel better and they go, wow, what was that? And it reminds them of the presence that they've divorced themselves from, and then helps them to get out of it. They then decide, okay, well, I want this feeling, and they come back to you, or they find another way, but it opens something up in them that they'd shut down. And you don't really need to be in charge of that. How it plays out, you just follow the guidance. It's like, okay, well, show me. I'm not really in charge. So, what should I do in this situation? What should I say? What should I do? You guide me, and the words and the actions will come from the beingness that knows the way for that person, that knows the way for them to heal. And then it's going to use you to be an instrument of that healing. Okay, so any comments on that? You want to give a little summary of number 5?
Well, what was happening in me while you were talking was I was thinking about how I used to feel a bit uncompassionate when people were in pain, because I didn't want to join them in the pain. I didn't want to agree with them that it was real. So as I was listening to you, I was thinking, no, I don't do that anymore. I don't feel callous. I don't feel unkind anymore. And I think you just clarified it's a case of just being in that, seeing them whole and complete and being in that energy. And that's really comforting, what you've just said. It's really, but nothing needs to be said in form unless I'm guided. too. So that's really cool. I remember there was one guy that came to me and he was dying of cancer, and he was like desperately trying his last fight to not go. He was in so much resistance, he couldn't accept any help. And he was here on retreat. And he said, I've got all this pain in my arm. And I just compassionately put my hand on his arm. And he went, oh my God, the pain's all gone. He was like, healing hands. I'm like, no, I haven't got healing hands. You know, he just let it go. He just made up some story that, you know, that by touching him, it made it go. He still died, but I just remember was thinking of him. He was in a lot of pain.
And so the best is to show people that there's a state that's free of pain. Be the example of that. Be the demonstration of that. To remind them that, you know, the pain isn't real. That there's something beyond this. That's the kindest thing you can possibly do for them. Joining them in their pain, sympathizing. Oh, poor you. That's not helping them at all. You're making their pain real. You're making their whole condition real, and you've entrenching the story that's imprisoning them in their mind. That's not helping them. So we need to be just very vigilant of staying in true to these principles when you're dealing with the sick and the weak and the needy and the afraid, and there's plenty of that in the world. It's like, okay, you have to be very rooted in your presence. Okay, I'm rooted in this, and this isn't going to sway me. Then you become a powerful healer, because they're like, I want whatever you have, I actually want it, and you represent that for me. And so now they can come to something. You hold the frequency for them. But if you drop your frequency into their level, then where do they come to? How do they find the way out of that? So they're going to pull you down into that dark pit of neediness and fear and despair, or you're going to stay above it, above the battleground, and you're going to raise them up to that level. And if you look at it in those terms, it's fairly obvious, which one you should do, because you can't ever heal someone or save them if you drown with them. It's not possible. So above the battleground, you pull them up, you raise them up, but you have to stay there, even though you recognize that they're not there. But you recognize also that in truth they are there, and that there's a shift that can happen, that you can raise them up to that level, and that the ego can be undone. You can help them with that.
Yeah. Lovely, thank you.
Okay, so number 6.
We thank our source for one thing alone, that we are separate from no living thing and therefore one with it. And we rejoice that no expectations can ever be made which would reduce our wholeness, nor impair or change our function to complete the one who is itself completion.
That's exceptions, it's not expectations. No exceptions ever can be made.
We rejoice that no exceptions, because the cursor was covering up some of the letters I'd guessed wrong. We give thanks for every living thing, for otherwise we offer thanks for nothing, and we fail to recognize the gifts of pure fullness, awareness, and perfect love to us. No exceptions. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no exceptions ever can be made. Rejoice that no exceptions can ever be made. The temptation to make exceptions is how the ego works. And you've ever heard someone, yes, I know that, but there's an exception. See? So yes, but is the tendency to want to make exceptions to the truth, which of course is what the ego is made out of. The ego is the exception to the truth. So if you keep making exceptions to the truth, how are you ever going to escape from the thought system that's the exception to the truth? You're not going to do it, are you? So he's asking us for a wholehearted commitment to this thought system, saying, okay, actually you can't be less than whole. You can't be somewhat separate and somewhat one. This is not possible. You're either one or you're separate. There's no in between. Which actually makes complete sense. You go, well, yeah, how can I be partially separate? I'm either separate or I'm not. I'm one or I'm separate. I mean, these are mutually exceptional states. So this is the underlying theory, the underlying foundation of all of this. That it's one state or another. You're either one, perfectly one, with no exceptions, so there's no separation, or you're completely separate and fragmented, and oneness is no longer real and true. And oneness doesn't exist. Those are the choices.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
not less than whole. Sounds really, when I think back to how I used to feel broken, fragmented and whatnot, but not less than whole is a really nice phrase. That I can't be impaired. I'm just perfectly one, no exceptions. Yeah, it's nice.
And there's no other way. The more you look at this, you go, yeah, I get it. It's all or nothing here. Because if I make one exception to the truth, then the truth is no longer true. Do you see that? So he's telling us, look, this is an all or nothing deal. You're either going to believe this, know this fully, and be in the pure formless awareness of perfect love entirely, or one exception breaks that state. Because it's just a state of mind. One exception to the truth now brings in duality and everything that is involved with duality. So you can't make exceptions, because that's just going to keep you stuck in a compromised thought system of duality and away from this pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is what you truly want, where you're truly at home, and that's the only thing that's really going to make you happy. So we give thanks for every living thing. Gratitude for every living thing, because it has the same life essence as you and as everything. For otherwise we offer thanks for nothing. We fail to recognize the gifts of pure formless awareness, gifts of, let's just change it to perfect love. Gifts of perfect love to us. So again, all or nothing. We give thanks for all life, because all life shares the same life essence as us. That gratitude acknowledges our own beingness. Or we give thanks for nothing. Oh, well, if we can't give thanks for all life, then there's no thanks due, because then we're just in form. And there's nothing really to give thanks for in the illusion of form. Okay, so happy with number 6?
I was muted. Yes.
Number 7.
Then let our companions lead their tired heads against your shoulders as they rest a while. We offer thanks for them. Or if we can direct them to the peace that we would find,
We would find
the way it's opening at last to us. An ancient door is swinging free again. A long forgotten word echoes in our memory and gathers clarity as we are willing once again to hear.
A long forgotten word. So shall we make that message? Re-echoes in our memory and gathers clarity as we're willing once again to hear. So if we direct people to the peace that we want to find, the way opens to us. So even if they're not in peace, they're in pain and suffering, they are giving us the opportunity to direct them to that peace, to be the peace that they want. And then we learn it for ourselves. So by holding to this truth, no matter what, not making exceptions, not compromising, we teach ourselves, this is true. And nothing can really shake me. I'm unshakable in my knowledge of this truth. It doesn't matter what's happening on the level of form and what temptations are thrown at me. The truth is true and nothing else is true. And I remain rooted in that truth no matter what. And if you can do that, that's enlightenment. You're enlightened. If you stay in the truth all the time, you have access to that being. You never get swayed. You're unshakable. That's the definition of enlightenment, the fully enlightened state in this while you're still living this apparently human life. But it's a process. Say, okay, well, you're not fully there yet. I get that. No, you've still got some lessons to learn, but this is how you learn your lessons. Here's the standard, and here's how you learn your lessons. So don't go into sympathy. Remain rooted in your true awareness when you're dealing with pain and suffering and sickness and death, and you remind others of the truth and yourself as well.
Yeah, that's why I do what I do. That's why I run peace groups and courses. Keep reminding myself.
And that's why I do what I mean, we heal ourselves, don't we? We're teaching what we need to learn. And so the more you teach it, the more it's like, oh yeah, this is true. Oh yeah, and you're saying, I mean, you're speaking it, and sometimes you go, oh, I didn't quite know where that came from, because it's coming now. You're tapping into being, and the Spirit's doing it through you, and you go, oh wow, I'm just opening up, and I'm just the vessel or the channel, and I'm just allowing myself to be done through, which is what you want to be. That's. So by expressing it, by teaching, you allow the flow to come through you, and you start to become more of that. And when I didn't teach, I really missed it. I felt like the flow's not really happening. So it's actually affecting my ability to connect with the beingness that I am, because there's not this free flow of it outwards. And so I started the program for myself. Okay, I need to do this because I'm somewhat disconnected, and I want to get back, because I taught for many years and I missed it. So we're heal ourselves, and then the benefit of that is, if it's genuinely coming from Spirit, that's going to help others as well. It can't not help them, but you're helping yourself. So a bit like the airline, they say, if there's the cabin loses pressure and oxygen, put your own mask first so that you can breathe, and then you can help others. If you're desperate and choking and you can't breathe, then how are you going to really be effective in helping others? You're not. So, help yourself first, then help others.
Okay.
Yeah, nice imagery there. Ancient door. Message re-echoes in our memory. What else did we change? Gathers clarity or once again wanting to hear. And so you're just that presence. We let our companions, it's a nice image, lean their tired heads against our shoulders as they rest a while. Okay, I'm the presence of love in this world, and everyone is weary. And then they sense that, and they go, okay, I can actually rest there for a while, and I can absorb some of that frequency that you're in. And just that, being the frequency holder, is going to be helpful and healing for them.
Yep.
Okay, so number 8.
Walk then in gratitude the way of love, for hatred is forgotten when we lay comparisons aside. What more remains as obstacles to peace? The fear of pure formless awareness of perfect love is now undone at last, and we forgive without comparing.
So
Thus we
let go.
Let go without comparing. Thus we cannot choose to overlook some things, and yet remain some things still locked away as sins. When your letting go is complete, you will have total gratitude, for you will see that everything has earned the right to love by being loving, even as yourself. Right to love by being loving, even as yourself. What's that last bit then, even as yourself, mean?
So yourself is also loving. Everything has earned the right to love by being loving, even as yourself. So you are this loving presence. You've earned the right to love by being loving, even as yourself. So maybe we can say that somewhat differently. Even as yourself. As yourself. As as you are in truth. How about that? Is that
Yeah.
better? As you
Yeah.
are in truth. You are the
Yes, the
earn the
self
right to love by being loving as you are in truth.
Interest. Yeah, that makes more sense. The self, I was a bit confused. I'm never quite sure when he's talking about true self or false self.
Well, he uses a capital S. So,
Is the truth. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But even then, in my head, no head,
Yeah.
even in my mind,
In my mind,
yeah, just some of the words. I'm not quite sure sometimes, but yeah, right. I'll look for the capital.
Sometimes it doesn't quite work. You know, he'll say that and you go, oh, it's a little bit, I understand what he's saying, but it just doesn't really flow.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we're translating, well, then let's change that and make it flow more. So as you are in truth, I think flows better.
It does. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes I know what the word means, but it kind of just doesn't compute in somehow.
No.
Like that self didn't compute.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're alone there. I think that's the case for a lot of course students. Like, I'm reading the words, but I'm just not really computing. I read a whole paragraph and I'm like, what did he just say there? I just didn't really process that. It didn't, you know, sink in. And so the process of translation and then like unpacking it and engaging, it's like, okay, we'll draw, you know, the meaning out of that and get some deeper understanding through this process so that the words start to come to life. Oh, okay, so that's what he's meaning. These little insights come. And, you know, the words are pretty important. The words are the pointers into that deeper understanding, aren't they? So that's why we do the translations. Because if you can use better pointers that just give people a deeper understanding, it's like, wow, suddenly that sentence, that paragraph just unlocks for them. Oh, wow, actually, okay, I'm actually starting to make a bit of sense now. And if you do that systematically through the whole course, the whole thing starts to make sense. Whereas I think a lot of people just go, wow, I'm just like reading this and I'm just blanking. I'm not able to penetrate into any kind of understanding. It's like a brick wall and I just can't kind of get into it. And then of course they stop and they just go, okay, well, you know, this isn't for me. And they put the book aside and it sits on their shelf for years, as you know, happens a lot. It'd be interesting to do a survey of, you know, how many Course in Miracles books are actually being read actively and how many are just sitting on the shelf doing nothing. I think you'd probably find 80-90% are just sitting somewhere gathering dust, not really doing anything. And then occasionally someone like, okay, it gets activated and that, you know, that course will get used sometimes years afterwards. But so I guess, you know, my mission with this program was to make it come alive for people. Can you make this into, you know, in the Bible it talks about the living truth and the living God. Can you make this into something that's a living and alive and actually active in your daily life? It's not, you know, just some kind of theory sitting on a bookshelf, which is, you know, you kind of know about in theory somewhat, but you're not really applying it. You want to make this come alive in your experience, and you know that means you've got to engage with the material. And it, you know,
do you think maybe sometimes people don't come on the live calls for that reason? Because when you say, can you explain what that means? And they go, oh, no, I can't. That maybe that then kicks up the ego and it goes, oh, I'm no good at this. I'm useless at this. I can't do that.
Possibly, yeah. I've seen that happen once or twice. Someone left the call because, you know, I asked a challenging question. I was like, oh, okay, just disappear, never to return. So, you know, so it can happen, but I try to keep it pretty, you know, okay, maybe not challenge people so much, just like, okay, well, what do you think about that? Any thoughts about that? You know, and then it sort of flows. It sort of flows more. If you're getting a bit more advanced with it, like, you know, you're now 5 months into the process, it's kind of you've got the basic understanding. So if I ask you what you think, you're not going to go, oh my God, you know, I'm freaked out, because you kind of you get the language and you start to you understand the concepts, and it's just really I'm just asking you the question so that you can go and go, okay, so let me express this, and in the expression of it, maybe I'll learn something. You know, by summarizing it, by asking a question about it, I'm engaging with it, and I'm learning something more than if it's just, okay, let's just read it. If we just read it and there's no engagement, then it's like, okay, well, what are you really learning out of this? So, you know,
It definitely gets easier after you've been here for a while. But I can see how it could be a bit like flashbacks from school, like you had said once, that you feel like the teacher's testing you to see what you know, but it's not like that, is it? It's more just like you do your own self-inquiry on it to see if you can go a bit deeper.
Yeah, I'm trying to draw you into a process of like, okay, so let's engage with this material and understand it deeper. And you know, if I ask you a question, it's so that you can do that. You can engage more with it and stretch yourself a bit. You know, if you go, I don't understand it. I'm like, well, really, is that the case? Or just speak what you do understand. Maybe you understand more than you think you do. And so you get over that. I think there's a lot of resistance of like, oh, you know, I don't want to be seen to be stupid, to be somewhat less than. So, you know, then that's just the ego's defense, you know, and actually that's not what this is about. You know, anyone at any level is welcome. And because we've all been there, we've all been beginners at some stage and read this thing and gone, what the hell is he talking about? You know, and then you just like, you just work with it and you work with it and you persevere until it starts to make sense. I mean, isn't that how you do anything? You know, that's how you learn and how you gain mastery with anything. So, you know, when we start, we don't really understand this, of course, but, you know, as you work with it for months, years, you do get better at it. So, you know, I've just been doing this a very long time, 16 years, just like plugging away at the same thing, reading it every day. And, you know, through that immersion, you eventually, it just becomes like, oh, yeah, of course I get it. I mean, I've done thousands and thousands of hours. How could I not get it? I have to be completely stupid not to, you know, have anything penetrate with all that, you know, immersion time. But when I started, it's like, no, not really. I mean, I'd read this stuff and it'd be like, it's going in on some level, but on a very superficial level. And it's taken many, many years to go, you know, deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And this process, this, you know, discussion process, I find is really, really works for that. It's taken me much deeper into the course because you have to. You know, you're reading it, you're unpacking it, you're discussing it. It's like, oh, wow, actually, I'm seeing how much depth there is in each paragraph, in each sentence. It's extraordinary, you know, that you can extract so much depth and meaning from just 10 paragraphs. I mean, how do you spend an hour or two discussing 10 paragraphs? I don't know many books you could do that, but you can with this course. Okay, so how are we doing? 10, yeah, so we've got two paragraphs. So let's read those quickly and then we'll do a med.
Okay. Today we learn to think of gratitude in place of anger, malice, and revenge. We have been given everything. If we refuse to recognize it, we are not entitled, therefore, to our bitterness and to a self-deception, which regards us in a place of merciless pursuit, where we are badgered ceaselessly and pushed about without a thought or care for us or for our future. Gratitude becomes the single thought we substitute for these insane perceptions. Pure formless awareness, perfect love has cared for us and calls us son. Calls us son? Yeah.
Calls us its extension, really. That's what that should be.
Can there be more than this? In section 3, it's got recognize spelt the American way.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out.
Okay, so today we think of gratitude in place of anger, malice, and revenge. Yeah. Been given everything. Just refuse to recognize it. Yeah, so we're not entitled to bitterness.
Into a self-perception which regards us in a place of merciless pursuit. Badgered cease, they're pushed about without a thought or care for us or for our future. So that's the victim. We're not the victim of this cruel world that's pursuing us and harassing us and badgering us. Actually, that's a misperception. Gratitude is the single thought we substitute for these insane perceptions. And so from that gratitude, if you're really rooted in gratitude, it takes you into pure formless awareness of perfect love. That state of mind can then create the abundance. If you're having whatever difficulty, scarcity, lack, you stay rooted in that. And you go, okay, I'm going to stay in that. I'm going to let myself be guided from that state of abundance, which is the true abundance. And then the thoughts and the words and the actions are coming from that place, not from a place of scarcity. And that's how this works. That's how conscious manifestation works. Stay rooted in the frequency of gratitude, which is abundance, and allow yourself to be directed accordingly.
Yeah,
And
I
this,
saw that.
hmm?
Sorry, I saw that this morning. I was in gratitude, having done the lesson, and then I went out for a walk, and I was grateful for all the free fruit that was around. I picked the blackberries and the apples, and then lots of people stopped and talked to me, and they said how they loved seeing me pick the, foraging for this food, and they were just enjoying me doing it. And I came home feeling so abundant, so incredibly abundant. And then as I got home, there was some money lying on the floor. I just picked it up as I walked through. It was just like,
So a good lesson. Like it's the fullness of life, and that's the lesson for today. The fullness of life, the abundance of life that Yeshua talked about. It's that experience. It's not really about the blackberries or the money on the floor, but the whole experience is a rich experience. You're feeling expanded, you're feeling connected to your being, and then all of your experiences take on that quality, don't they? It's an inside out. You're feeling rich and abundant, and then your experiences show up within that field. You feel rich and abundant. You could be picking blackberries and be actually not in an abundant state at all. Just picking blackberries, I'm actually quite depressed, but I'll go pick some blackberries because I quite like blackberries. So and then I've got different state of mind, isn't it? Totally different consciousness. So the abundant life is not the activity, it's the beingness that you bring into whatever you're doing, and that's what gives it the life that energizes, that makes it into something that's enjoyable and fulfilling, as opposed to just, okay, well, I'm just doing a task and I'm picking blackberries. It's the whole experience, the oneness, the flow coming into Sally's mind, and now experiencing itself through you in this particular package we call Sally, in that particular situation. It's quite profound, really. You go, wow, that's absolutely profound. It's the pure formless awareness of perfect love having its experience in the world through me, through this vessel called Sally. And actually, I am that awareness, and I'm able to now express and extend that awareness into the world through this vehicle, through this vessel. And so I'm not really a separate self at all. It's just this one awareness coming through me, and I just surrender to that. I allow that, and then my experience feels expanded and joyful and grateful, and life is good if I'm in that awareness.
life
That's
is
what it's saying. Gratitude is a single thought. How can you not be grateful for that awareness? It's cared for us and calls us its extension. Can there be more than this? Okay. Last one.
Our gratitude will pave the way to it and shorten our learning time by more than you could ever dream of. Gratitude goes hand in hand with love, and where one is, the other must be found. For gratitude is but an aspect of the love, which is the source of all beingness. Pure formless awareness of perfect love gives thanks to you, its son, for being what you are, its extension for being what you are, its own completion and the source of love along with it. Your gratitude to it is one with its to you. For love can walk no road except the way of gratitude, and thus we go who walk the way to pure formless awareness of perfect love. That was really strong. There was a bit of energy there about the first third that just took me.
Yeah, it's a nice ending. Love can walk no road except the way of gratitude. So it's saying love and gratitude are really the same. We experience them as, we have a different name, maybe a slightly different feeling, but it's the same. You cannot be grateful. You cannot not feel grateful for this loving presence that you've experienced. Yeah. So, we've got 15 minutes left. Should we dive into a med?
Yep, lovely.
And actually have the experience of it. Okay, so making yourself comfortable, sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clenching the sphincter muscle. Draw the life energy up. Feel this beautiful warm wave of energy. A rising tide flowing into your heart center. Breathe into your heart center. You can put one hand on your heart to connect with your heart space. Bring your mind into the present moment by just focusing all your attention on the breath and the subtle sensations of the breath. And draw the energy up into the crown of your head. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. And you smile. And smiling. Scanning your mind, noticing any thoughts, emotions, any related sensations in the body. Breathe into those to create some space around them. If there's anything that doesn't feel grateful, so any resentment, anger, fear, anxiety, frustration, just be aware of any of those kinds of thoughts and emotions, aware of the thoughts, the feelings, how it feels physically. Notice any areas in your body where that reflects tension, pain, and just breathe into it again. So you're breathing in the truth, experience of love and gratitude, which is the way you walk. Love is the way I walk in gratitude, say to you. So in this situation, love is the way I walk. In gratitude for all I truly have, the pure formless oneness of perfect love. So I can let this go, this misperception, just let it go with the help of your breath. Exhale and blow it all away. The breeze of your breath. Imagine it's like a dark cloud leaving you to the nothingness that it really is. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. Letting it all go. Surrendering into the peace. It comes with gratitude. And just observe your breath now. So breathing in through the nose. Notice the subtle sensation in your nostrils as you do that. And up through the nose. Notice the air flowing out. Touch of the breath on the area just below your nose, between your nose and your upper lip. And just focus on the breath to bring you into the present moment. Fully and completely. That's the ground of being, the underlying awareness. And in the present moment, you can experience the gratitude. So today we learn to think of gratitude in place of anger, malice, and revenge. There is no place for these false thoughts in a mind that is grateful. So just breathe this gratitude in for all you have, your true awareness, like now, which you're aware of. This is the gift of life, the very essence of you, pure formless awareness of perfect love that is you. And anger, malice, and revenge have no place in that. They are dysfunctions, distortions of your being, false ideas, thoughts, and feelings that have no place in your mind. So again, if you notice any of these kinds of energies, anger, malice, revenge, fear, hatred, attack thoughts, jealousy, rage, and on it goes. If you notice any of that, even a smidgen of it, just breathe into it and say, I'm done with this. I've been given everything, the pure formless awareness of perfect love completely. And it's only me who refuses to recognize it. So I'm not entitled to my bitterness and to a self-perception which regards me in a place of merciless pursuit, badgered ceaselessly and pushed about without a care for me or for my future. This is not a true perception. So I exhale, I let all of this go. Instead, I replace it with gratitude. Gratitude becomes a single thought I substitute for these insane perceptions. I recognize that the pure formless awareness of perfect love, my source, has cared for me and calls me its extension. And this gratitude will pave the way to it. Pave the way for this presence to come into your mind and shorten your learning time by more than you could ever dream of. Gratitude goes hand in hand with love. Where one is, the other must be found. Love and gratitude. Powerful complementary combination. They're both, in truth, just pointers to the same essence, the same fundamental awareness, the pure formless awareness of perfect love that you are. So where one is, the other must be found. So they come from the same source. Gratitude is but an aspect. Gratitude is just an aspect of the love which is the source of all beingness. Your formless awareness of perfect love gives thanks to you. Its extension for being what you are, its own completion and the source of love along with it. So you are it and it is you. And in that merging, you feel the gratitude. Your gratitude to it is one with its to you. It is grateful to you as you are grateful to it. It's the one awareness knowing itself. And there's great joy in that. This is the merging of the Father and the Son, the source and its extension. For love can walk no road except the way of gratitude. And so we go, who walk the way to pure formless awareness of perfect love. So with that invitation, just drop in to this awareness. Feel the love and feel the gratitude for that love. And you feel it as one experience. You merge into that experience. So the terms love and the terms gratitude and even the term pure formless awareness and perfect love, all of it just fades away into one experience, a single experience of the truth of who you really are. So allow that experience to arise in your mind, completely envelop you for the next couple of minutes of deep silence. So just gently coming back from this deep state of peace and love and gratitude to an awareness of the body and the breath. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Observing your mind again, noticing any thoughts, any emotions, related sensations in the body. If there's anything that's out of accord with perfect love and gratitude, just observe it casually, recognize that it's not you, it's just a cloud pattern. Seems to obscure the blue sky of your pure formless awareness, the light of your source of perfect love, the gratitude for that. So just blow it away with the breeze of your breath. Exhale. Let it all go. Feel the energy subsiding, releasing it like a dark cloud to the nothingness that it really is. Feel the energy raised up into the crown, flowing down the front channel of your body into your lower stomach and your groin. And just rest there for a few moments. The count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair. Your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling with your hands touching. There's a subtle taste in your mouth, smell in your nose. Notice that. Breathe in. Notice any smell. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things from this very still, calm, and surrendered state. And it's just this pure formless awareness underlying all of your perceptions and sense of gratitude for this. So this awareness, this beingness, presence, whatever you want to call it, is there always. Cannot leave you because it's the very essence of who you are. So feel it now, connect with it, feel the gratitude that acknowledges it, anchors you in the state and allows you to stay there for the rest of the afternoon and evening. To help you do that, top yourself up frequently with today's lesson. It only needs to take a few seconds just to remind yourself that love is the way I walk in gratitude. If you have a bit longer, use the breath break that I've sent you, the 5-minute breath break. And there's a longer meditation, 17-minute meditation to a longer, actually a 29-minute one this evening, which I'll send you to help you to practice it again this evening. So practice well. So it is said, so it is done. And 3, open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around, observing various objects in the room in this very calm, clear, aware state. And notice that it really doesn't matter what you're looking at. Let your eyes randomly rest on a number of objects. Doesn't matter what you're looking at, they're all the same. This awareness that underlies them is always there, always the same. And you feel grateful for it, feel the gratitude. Say it one more time, love is the way I walk in gratitude. And that's what I wish for you for the rest of the afternoon and evening and weekend ahead. So no session tonight or tomorrow. We'll have another session on Sunday evening. So hopefully see you then or next week, Monday.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Okay,
Bye.
Namaste. Bye for now.